All right, folks, I'm going to do a couple of quick videos here about intervals. You can go back and watch this stuff, so I'm going to try to put it in video form instead of regular lecture form where I would be getting answers and going back and covering stuff. The goal is to make it short and sweet, and you can come back and watch it again. What we're going to do first is just talk about interval qualities. Quality is not spelled with a G. So, qualities. Qualities of intervals include perfect, major, minor, augmented, and diminished. Okay. And then there are quantities. Quantities are when we're counting the actual space. And that's what an interval is, right? It's the space between two things, a time interval. So quantities are things like seconds, thirds, fourths, fifths. I think you get the idea. And then the octave is how we refer to a perfect eight, an eight. So we don't say eighths. We say octaves. And we also don't say firsts. We say unison. Those are firsts. Okay, now some of these quantities will line up with particular qualities, and some of them won't. For example, perfect intervals. The only perfect intervals there are the perfect unison, perfect fourth, perfect fifth, and perfect octave. There are no perfect seconds or perfect thirds or perfect sixths or perfect sevenths. There are only perfect unisons, fourths, fifths, and octaves. For major and minor, there are only major and minor seconds, major and minor thirds, major and minor sixths, and major and minor, let me do this, sevenths. Any interval can be augmented or diminished. You can have augmented seconds, augmented thirds, diminished fourths, diminished fifths, augmented sixths, augmented sevenths, diminished octaves. Even an augmented or diminished, of course, a diminished unison that's almost a metaphysical concept, because diminished means to make smaller. And if you have a unison, two notes, say on C, if you have two people singing the note C4, the middle C, how could that interval get any smaller? How could those notes get any closer together? So, yeah, no diminished unisons. But there are augmented unisons. From C to C sharp is still a 1 because they're both C's, but it's an augmented one. We'll get into augmented stuff a little later. So there you go. Those are quantities and qualities. Now, when we write these, we just use simple forms like P4, small m2 for minor second, large M6, smaller 6 for major sixth. Augmented and diminished, we use symbols. This is an augmented second. This is a diminished third. Okay, so this is how we will actually be writing and identifying the intervals. That's what our symbols will look like. Okay, watch this 47 times. There you go.